Hey Dreamers, I can't believe it. We are so close to Dreamers Podcast existing for 3 whole years. To celebrate this amazing accomplishment, I have decided to put together a live event here just outside of Philadelphia, May 20th. DreamCon will be an all-day event where you can meet past guests, network with other dreamers, and play minute-to-win-it games to raise money for charity, and of course so much more. Tickets are on sale now at superjoepardo.com/dreamcon. I can't wait to see you all there. Hey Dreamers, my guest, I'm so happy to have back on the Dreamers Podcast. I really admire this lady so much. And I'm so glad that I get to call her my friend. She was here back on episode 224, which we checked before we started recording. We recorded this back in January, so it's almost been a full year since we recorded, but it got released, I think it was like April 5th. Yeah, that's called time stretching, I think, in the industry. And she is back here to talk about the event that she put on, which took a lot of things, right? A lot of guts, a lot of patience, a lot of time, effort, a lot of guts, if I didn't say that already. And it was called the Unlimited Influence Live. Now, you might have seen me speak at this conference that was held in Santa Monica, California. It was beautiful out there, even though it was like 60 degrees, which was warmer than it was back here in the Northeast at the time. Or actually, no, I don't think it was. I think it was actually warmer back at home at the time, but as soon as I got back, it got cold again. Of course, because that's how it goes. Everyone, I'd like to welcome back Samantha Riley.
Thank you so much for having me back, Joe. This is like such a happy moment. I love chatting with you. It's just so much fun.
I do too. And when you asked me to come out to Santa Monica, I was a little hesitant because I'm like, oh no, this is going to cost a bunch of money. But you know what? It's so going to be worth it, and it was. And watching you especially in the first day. Not that it wasn't in the second day, but especially in the first day in the opening talk. I was supposed to be working on my slideshow because I was way behind on it. I really admired the attention to detail of not just of what you were saying to get people pumped, but like how you made people feel. Like I kept looking around the room and like just how it's like a magic trick.
Thank you so much, because even though, we do what we do because we love it, and, it's not just a job for us, right? We put our heart and soul into it, and, I do it because I love it, but to hear that other people appreciate what is done, it's so humbling, and thank you so much for sharing that.
You were very welcome. It was enlightening for myself, not just because of what you were saying, but to watch. And I think you asked me that, like, what's the thing that you took away from this? And that was the first thing that jumped to my mind was that first day, how you made people feel right there in the moment. And, which is it's just incredible. Like, it really is. And it makes me, want to change. And, watching even like Manny's talk, right? Specifically, because he was such a detail-driven, detail-rich story. That like I don't know that I'd ever seen anybody give such a talk like that, and it was really enlightening for myself to think about like the words and the adjectives and the descriptions and when you tell stories. So being there just was so awesome. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Samantha, you wanted to go and do it in Santa Monica. Why?
I teach people, and I've always said you should build your business around the lifestyle that you want, not try and build a business and then try and jam your life into that. And the reason I teach that is because I came from a background where I had very successful business for 20 years that were local businesses. So, we had to go, we had to open them every day. And whilst we could go away, and we did used to go away a lot, we always needed to make sure that the staff were there, which, made the costs of business go up because you've got staff, in doing that thing. So
Stuff and doing that thing. That's good. Good job. Good description.
Yeah. I did tell you before we got on this that I was already in this crazy, very tired mind here today. So, all right, I'll look for better words. So I'm very, very passionate about building a business that fits the lifestyle that you want and to fit the values that you want, and just so that you're creating this life that you love. So I love to travel, and I love the US. I love the people there. I love the country. I just love everything about it. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I take my conference over to the US so that I'm building a business that I love? And that's why I did it.
I know, and you did it on such short notice. It was like, what, less than 3 months when you were like, I'm going to do this. And you told me, you're like, oh, well, you know what brought it up, right? And do you remember what brought it up in the first place?
I know exactly what brought it up. Do you want me to share that story?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I'm a bit like you, Joe. I love Disneyland. Like, Disneyland is just the shiz for me. Like, I've been there a couple of times, and from Australia, it's quite a big trip to go there. That's how much I love going. And my partner Leon has never been to Disneyland, and it was August, and I was like, I've been to Disneyland in Halloween, and we don't celebrate Halloween in Australia very much. It's very, very small.
What, are you serious? What's defined small?
Like there might be 5 kids in a suburb trick or treating. No one dresses up. Like it's.
Wait, they don't even dress up, like, or the kids will dress up, right?
The kids. Yeah, the kids dress. The kids dress up. The adults don't dress up at all. And I love Halloween. I think it's so fantastic. And so anyway, I'm like, we should go to Disneyland for Halloween. And I'm like, okay, so how can we do this? How can we do it? And it took me about 30 seconds before I went, I know, I've got it. I'll run an event over there, and then we can go to Disneyland for Halloween. So that's truly designing your business around the life that you want, right?
It is. And that's something that I constantly preach. I've, wrote a book basically based around that. And you've written a book as well, which I have right over here in this giant stack of books. And it's so important to know what you want and how you're going to make that happen. So, again, but it takes a lot of guts because, like, you're not from America. You don't have a ton of influence in America like you do in Australia. No. So to be, I'm going to do this event and it's going to be great. And you did it. You spent a ton of money doing it, but you did it.
Yeah. It's not that close. It took us 20 hours
20 minutes,
door to door.
It's a 20-minute drive. It's great.
20 minutes. I wish it was 20 minutes. 20 hours door to door to get over there. 27 hours back. It's not close, but so worth it. And I think what you said was so true. It's about knowing what you want and then putting the things in place to make it happen. And I know you're all about the dream, but something that I feel that has come up for me as I was thinking before we got in this call, what do I want to say? And I think what I'd love to, or the message that I'd love to share is that even when you're chasing your dreams, it's not always going to be easy. That there is going to be some really, really, really challenging times. And that's why sometimes it's easier not to chase your dreams.
I couldn't agree more. I just got off a call with Erica Gordon from the Moms Who Chase Their Dreams podcast, and we were talking about the same thing, and I'm like, so I forget how it came up, but I was like, oh, so I guess I shouldn't talk about the times that I sat on laid on the couch and cried and thought to myself, 4-letter word, what am I doing here right now? This is crazy. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something else. But I'm so glad that I just stuck it out and kept doing it, doing what I loved and doing what I enjoyed, because it's so paid off since then. and continue.
Yeah.
And even in the beginning, it's paid off because I knew what I wanted, and I was getting out of it what I wanted, which was
Yeah.
connections and meeting people and learning what it is that I wanted to even do with my life.
Yeah, absolutely. But, when you hit that wall of I can't do this, that's because you're about to go into territory that you've never been to before. That's what the fear is. But, you've got to pass over into that place. And, it isn't easy. And for me, there was a lot of tears. I haven't spoken about it a lot, but even just before I got on the plane, I was here at home and I was packing my bag and, I'm putting everything in the suitcase, and I seriously cried for 3 hours because I thought, I haven't told anyone that joke.
3 hours. I mean, I get it. Like 10 minutes,
no,
20 minutes.
I have never been more scared in my life. And it's stupid, right? It's just another country of the world. It really should be no different.
We have McDonald's here. Come on now.
I know, right? But I was like, what am I doing? Who am I to be doing this? I'm just Sam. Are people going to go, what the? You're no good. Like, just go back home. There was all these crazy thoughts going through my head. I didn't know if what I was going to be doing was something very different to what people, are used to doing in conferences over there, which it turns out that what I did do was a little bit different. But that was a positive thing because that was, everyone's like, wow, we've never done a workshop like this. This is great. And that's all really good. But, I had this huge fear. And if I didn't have people flying in from all over the world, because I did have someone else flying from Australia that had backed herself, and I thought, well, I can't let her down. That's the reason I did it, and my partner, instead of him coming to go, it's okay, he's having his own fears. He couldn't even deal with it because he's got his own fears of what is she doing? So it was the night before we left. It was a crazy time.
Yeah, you did have somebody coming from Australia, which you had just met like the week before or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, I spoke at a conference the week before, and she really connected with what I was talking about. And she rang me and just said, I don't know what it is about you, but I don't even know what it is you do. I just wanted to reach out, and I thought maybe, I'd like to work with you, but I don't know in what capacity. And, we were talking, and I just said, look, I'm going to America next week. I'll just give you a call when I get back because, it's my focus at the minute. And she went, oh, wait, you're going to America? Maybe I might want to go there too. And she booked tickets like 3 days before we left and just jumped on a plane.
And, I think she got a lot out of it. I didn't get a chance to talk to Karen too much, which, by the way, I got to get her on the show because she is doing some amazing things in the food, in like this food space, in I guess specifically Australia.
Yes.
Or even like, actually, it's international with her though, isn't it?
Well, it is. I know she's in Fiji at the moment, and she just posted on Facebook the other day that her lavash, so it's Kurrajong Kitchen lavash, is actually on the shelves in Fiji. So I don't know where else it is, but I can't wait to catch up with her to find out where else it is.
No, that is awesome. And what's funny is every time somebody says Fiji, I can only think of The Truman Show. With Jim Carrey. No? Not ringing a bell?
Yeah, I've seen it, but Fiji...
Because that's where he wanted to go. Like the whole, like, oh, I'm going to go to Fiji. That's where I'm going to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like this, far off land and this thing that he was going to do. I couldn't even point out Fiji on a map if you circled it.
It's fairly, I guess, closer to Australia. So Australians go to Fiji for holidays.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So... What's one thing that you learned from doing this experience about yourself?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I know that we were chatting about this on the way to the airport, and I did have this huge trip on the way home to think about it too. My biggest takeaway is that sometimes things, dreams, plans in our head that seem really huge and unattainable are actually not that hard after all. So in my head, I'd made this, going over to America to do this workshop such a massive thing. And when I got there, it was no different to running a workshop in Sydney. I went in there, I did my thing that I always do. I connected people, which I love doing, and it was no different to doing it here. It was just a plane ride away. But I'd made it into this massive thing. And it was, in the sense that, there was great connections in the room and we had a ton of fun and, everything else. But going to the other side of the world to do something isn't as scary as what I'd made it out to be in my head.
Yeah, I mean, well, the fear is always, I think, the biggest thing, right? Because we make it up to be something that's so much worse or so much harder than it actually winds up being, and especially when you actually speak the language of the country, right? Like,
although we did have some words that didn't quite cross over, right?
yeah, but even still, like it's like if you went to China, like, do you speak one of
I
the
don't
like
speak
four
Chinese,
different kinds of
so.
Chinese? There's like four
Not
different types of
Cantonese,
Chinese.
not Mandarin. No.
Yeah, exactly. So my point being is, like, it's not like you were like, okay, we're gonna go to Spain and I don't speak any Spanish.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make this happen. Like, we're gonna make it. Now you might, because you were in like that like, hey, we're in the airport now, we're at the hotel. Probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Because most people that work in service industry there speak English, or some amount of English.
Yeah,
so
most of them do. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, but even then, it's like the fear of that is bigger than what it actually winds up being. The worst issues that you could possibly have. It seemed like you had at least planned out quite a bit of it, even though there was one thing that I pointed out to you, like, before we even got started. I was like, hey, Sam, I was looking to see what time this thing started, and I was having to do the time off the when does this thing start, like the countdown counter on your site. And you're like, oh yeah, in Australia we don't do schedules. That's not a thing that we do. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't do schedules? Like, it's got to have a schedule, like at least a start time or something. And you're like, no, it does. Just, people just know, and they stick around for 2 days. And
yeah, I found that very different.
Yeah. I found it very different coming to an event from an Aussie. And so what's something that you surprised yourself with doing this?
Oh, wow.
Maybe aside from actually doing it, right? Like, because you did it.
Yeah. For me, it's there'd been a couple of things that had happened leading into it, and we'd used our advertising budget, and then we had to change the date. So we started off with a new date because we'd had to cancel it with zero advertising budget. And I'm like, okay, well, I've got to fill this thing, right? So from the other side of the world, with never having met any of you, like you and I chat on Skype, regularly, and Manny and some of the other speakers, we chat on Skype, but I'd never met anyone in person. And it was organizing speakers and people in the room with zero advertising budget, and actually getting people in the room just from connecting with people and having conversations with people. That's, I think, like, for me, that's the biggest thing that I'm proud of, is that I managed to pull all that together just by getting on the phone and having conversations. And, I'm so grateful to you and the other speakers for believing in me and traveling to the other side of the country. We'd never met, I could have been some crazy woman. Well, I am some crazy woman, but you never met me, right?
But you're the right kind of crazy woman.
So that to me was the best thing, is realizing, I'm very much about connecting with people, and that's what my conference is all about, right? It's about connection and love and care and what, the good that we can do in the world by really embracing those things. But to be able to actually not just teach it, but do it as well and implement that was that's my pride thing.
Oh, man, and for me, coming from the other side of America, and actually staying in a hostel, because it would have been like $700 to stay in that hotel for 2 nights.
Yeah, let's not mention the name of that hotel.
Yeah, we don't need to mention the name, but regardless, like, I had never stayed at a hostel before, so I even got a new experience in doing that, and it wasn't bad for being 1/7 the price of what I could have stayed at by myself, not at Disney World or Disneyland or some fancy, like really fancy hotel. I or in a vacation sense, and where I had an option to pay that much lower price. Plus, staying at the hostel was great because I got to walk around Santa Monica. Like I parked at the hostel, which was like half a mile away, and I walked back and forth, and it was great because I got to go see the pier and the beach and all that stuff. Like it was great. Like to me, that was because I probably wouldn't have left the hotel otherwise.
Yeah, so a completely different experience.
That's very true. Yeah, so and for me getting to make those connections and meet those people that you have connected with that you think so highly of, like just means so much to for you to open up your doors to I guess literally the doors to the conference room for me. So I greatly appreciate that.
Oh, the mutual love all around.
Well, Sam, I want to talk about some other things that, like, what's been going on outside of Unlimited Live, Unlimited Influence Live, the UI Live, UI Live.
Yes.
What else has been going on, like the last, for the most part, year?
Yeah, so when we first connected, it was because I was on your show because I'd just written my book, which seems like forever ago, and I can't believe it was only the beginning of this year. 2016 has been massive. Oh, look, I can see it through the screen. I launched a new online program off the back of that book because I realized from speaking to people that there was a very big gap in the market for people that are just starting their business or have got an idea to start a business that can't afford thousands of dollars for a mentor. So I've got an online program and a beautiful group of people that I connect with every day and check in and help with their businesses. That is just like, for them, the cost of a cup of coffee. So that was born, and I'm really proud of that little baby. What else? I started my own podcast because when we spoke last, I didn't have a podcast. So that's been exciting, the Unlimited Influence podcast, and podcasting's so awesome. You get to meet so many wonderful people and hear so many inspiring stories. And we've had you on the podcast, Joe. What else? Yeah. Organizing Santa Monica was a huge part of the second half of my year, and getting ready to roll out my high-end personal branding and marketing program off the back of that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, 2017 will see me in your beautiful country way more.
I hope so. And obviously, if there's anything I can do to help push that along, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, I think we'll be working a little bit together because I'm certainly looking forward to coming over and coming to MapCon.
MapCon.
See you guys over there.
Yes. So how has your dreams changed since being on the show about a year ago?
Oh, wow. Big question. My dreams are much bigger now, as I've realized that I guess I'd always knew that I was here to change people's lives. And I know it can sound really wanky sometimes, right? I'm here to change the world. But even when I was teaching dance, I used to watch the impact that I used to have on the children, because I would, connect with them and listen to them and the stories that we would tell when we probably should have been doing dance class. But, the parents would come in and say things like, Chloe picked up towels off the bathroom floor and I just almost fainted. And she went, yeah, Miss Sam told me to do it. Just because we're having this conversation about, if you help your mum, then, this will happen and everyone will be happy. And, I know that sounds such a little thing, but you're having an impact on other people's lives. So for me, I just want to take that next level now. I know that when I help people create profitable businesses that are designed perfectly for them and their lives, not only are they happier, their partners are happier, their children are happier, you've got all of the family happy. How many people does that then impact? And it's just, instead of these ripples of happiness going out, it turns into tidal waves, because the more people that are happy, the more people that create happiness and joy. And I'm all about love, connection, joy, and I know that when I get these groups of people together, that the ripples that creates is huge.
It just reminds me of why I'm so happy that our friend Esther, Kish, right? It's spelled like a
Kish,
kiss,
yes.
but it's Kish. Connected us like a year ago, because there's having people like this, having people that get where you're coming from and get like the social responsibility and the values that you hold, is so important for your own growth, right? Like, because it's the same but it's different, right? Because like you're supposed to also at the same time have other people that have different viewpoints, but like at the same time, like it's still good to have like a baseline of like, this is the things that I hold to be like really important to me, and then to have somebody that's like from literally the other side of the world and have very similar philosophies line up. It's so wonderful. And it's so great to see that somebody else wants to help other people master their business for more than just how can I make more money, because there's so many facets to it that people don't even see. Like it's not just all about money. I mean, that's one aspect of it, but like if you're not a robot, you don't live in a bubble, and these things affect you and they can change your entire life. I've seen it firsthand. Money doesn't fix those problems. It doesn't matter. Like more money will not fix those problems. And
No.
it's so important to get what you want and how you want to be in line. And remember that you are only human and you can only do so much. And that's one thing Sam, since taking this position at this nonprofit, it's really refreshing to hear, no, after 6:00, you don't have to answer any email. Do your own thing, whatever it is that, go spend time with your kid, go, do whatever it is you want. And it's not sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's not a trap.
It's so important. It's so important, and anyone that's listening in that does know me knows that I do work a crazy amount of hours, and I always have. But the way that I am in business is the way I am in my whole life. I'm very passionate about everything I do. So, I do love to spend time with my kids. I've just written an email that's going to go out before Christmas, just saying, be present with your children, be present with your family. I'll share, I had a funny moment last Christmas. It was, I don't know how hot it would be in Fahrenheit, but well over 100. It was really, really hot this particular day.
It's Australia. It's not understandable.
It was insanely hot this day. And my boys had traveled up from Adelaide, so I had all three of my children at my house. And when I say children, they, at that time they were 25 and 24 and 16, so not like little kids. And they were going to go to the beach, and they decided no, it was too hot to go to the beach. We had the air conditioning on, and we're like, what are we going to do? So my three kids walked to the shops just over the road from my apartment block, and they went and bought an old board game of Snakes and Ladders. And seriously, we sat and played Snakes and Ladders all afternoon, and we laughed so hard. Sometimes it's just the simple times. We were all present. We were just having a great time. We didn't need some fancy trip or anything else. It was just about connecting and laughing and having the best time.
That is hilarious. I've never heard of it called Snakes and Ladders. I'm looking this up.
Don't you have Snakes and Ladders?
We have Chutes and Ladders.
Really?
Yeah,
that
so the slides, there are slides, and the ladders are still ladders. But apparently Chutes and Ladders goes back like a long, long time to like ancient India.
It's a super simple game, it's nothing fancy, and wow, that's so funny. I didn't realize it was an Australian thing.
Well, I mean, it seems like it's a lot of like, so apparently in 1952 there's a version that became Chutes and Ladders from Milton Bradley. So yeah, I'd never heard of that before. So that learns something new every day. Yeah. Do you have a recent favorite memory from like this year, right? Like since it's been about a year since you've been on the show.
Oh, my absolute most favorite memory, and you're in it, Joe, was the dinner that we had at after UI Live, and we had, all the speakers and some of the people that I'd connected with that had helped me, bring people into the community, into the room. And there was 20 of us, and 20 of the most inspiring, overachiever entrepreneurs that just, oh my goodness, that night I felt like was a dream. It was definitely my most favorite, not just highlight of 2016, like it would be right up there as one of the highlights of my life that night. And I just had the best time and thought, wow, I actually created this. I brought these people together and everyone had a great time and said to me, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And I thought, wow, I brought these people together. So that's my definite most favorite memory.
I would totally agree. And even in doing like my own conference, like that is the biggest reward for me. Like I don't make a ton of money from my conference, and maybe I will at some point when I have a lot more people coming and there's more money flow and whatever. But for me, it's like, it's about bringing these amazing people together that get it. They get, well, in my case, it's podcasting. But in UI Live's case, it's, it's entrepreneurs and people who are just like, that see the world for like, there's more to it than what we are presented. And don't just think that, but like actually act on it and do things and want to be connected to other people who are doing it.
So special.
It is. It really is. So I got to ask you, since we're right on the cusp of a new year, what do your dreams for the future look like now going into 2017?
Oh, okay. If I can make Unlimited Influence Live and my marketing program Amplify a well-known program over in the States, that will be my dream next year, because I love being over there. The people that I've connected with over there, it's amazing how you can have such close friendships with people that you don't interact with in person every day, but like you and Tamara Thompson and Manny Wolf and Simon Bogdanovich and all these people that check in with me every week. If I can be there in person instead of having to do Skypes all the time, that would be just amazing. Yeah.
I was just on the phone with Simon last night, actually, following up from the conference. In fact, there's a lot of people I still need to get in contact with to have some conversations with and get them on the show as well, including Simon. So you're really gonna work hard for 2017 to make the Amplify brand. Is that the brand?
Yes.
Okay.
So Amplifies
Awesome. And to make that big in the States. Well, what is it about the States that appeals to you so much?
Do you know,
not that you shouldn't, but No.
And I do get asked about this a lot, and I think that my personality is more sort of normal over there. You guys over in the States, you're so larger than life and you're passionate and you just do life in a big way. Where Australians, and I love it here, don't get me wrong, like Australia's home and life here is awesome and I have beautiful clients here, but very different. There's a lot of tall poppy syndrome over here. I don't even know if you guys know what that is. I'm not sure. Like, you don't even, okay, you're shaking your head. Wow. Where anyone in Australia would just be like, tall poppy syndrome is you never tell anyone how good you are. If you do, then everyone just shuts you down and says, oh, you've got such a big head because you're good at something. Like, you can't ever tell people you're good at anything. You have to play, it's easier to play small. You have to look up tall poppy syndrome. It's a real thing over here. And so a lot of people play really small, and my big passionate persona, often people look at me like I've got three heads. It's just different. I like the polar opposites of it. I love working with Australians. I love working with Americans. I love working with people in the UK. They've got really warped sense of humor, and I love that too.
I thought you said puppy syndrome, not poppy syndrome. I looked it up
Oh,
and typed in tall puppy syndrome, and I'm like, I don't know what a tall puppy is, but
oh my goodness,
a
it's my
tall
silly accent.
poppy, a tall poppy syndrome, as defined by the first result in Google, a perceived tendency to discredit or disparage those who have achieved notable wealth or prominence in public life. And, I would say that we definitely have our fair share of people like that. I mean, remember we had the whole like 99%ers that were out there like protesting for like a year against people that had, I mean, it was a lot to do against people that like really messed up our financial situation, but there was a tendency to like, oh no, you make money, that's not good, and you know what I mean, you're rich and you must forget. And it's like, yeah, well, there's people that are rich and like worked their butt off every day and worked really, really hard to make it happen, figured it out, and made lots of mistakes that cost lots of money in the process, and those people exist too. And it's like, you don't discredit just because the money is there. Like, that's
Money
silly.
isn't actually, it's not a, like, those people are not only earning money, but they're probably employing other people that need jobs. They're a lot of, I mean, you're going to always have, situations where it's not everyone, but there's also a lot of people out there earning a lot of money that are doing so much good in the world. Oprah Winfrey is very, very wealthy, but how much good does she do with that?
A lot more than most people, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on that pretty early on at UI Live, where you talked about like, well, money isn't the problem. It's the, in my opinion, is like the philosophy that what you want to do with that. Like, you could do so much good with having money and being able to bring in, whether it's hiring other people to do things for you. There's so much more. This is like, it's like, oh no, you shouldn't litter. You're right, you shouldn't litter. But at the same time, like, if you didn't litter, or at least to some extent, the street sweepers wouldn't have a job.
Never thought about it like that, but it's so true, right?
Like, it's not that you should go littering, but like, hey, if nobody littered, then that's one job that wouldn't be there. Or like the milkman wasn't a job. Or, I mean, even like truck drivers, and I have a big truck driving background. Not that I was a truck driver, but look up my history. Anyway, as cars become autonomous and driving themselves, like, we're not going to need these drivers.
Not just drivers, but the people that look after the parking stations, cab drivers. Like, it just opens up a whole, even the lawyers that look after traffic offences, what happens to them? There's a whole plethora of people that are going to be out of work when we have cars that can drive themselves.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll probably open up new industries that we haven't even like considered. But yeah. So one thing dies, another thing opens up, and I don't even remember where I was going with all this. So I'm just gonna skip that off. But anyway, point being is, that's why it's really important to understand like what it is that you want to do, the life that you want to live, and why it is that you want to live it. And don't compromise for it, right? Like, a great example of that is when I was doing a lot of web design work for clients. Like, I talked to my dad. My dad would be like, "Oh, you should totally offer like a maintenance plan." I'm like, "Great." So at 3 a.m. when their site's down, they can call me. That's how I want to live my life. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
sure, the money
idea.
would be great. Sure, yeah, like $100 a month or something. Yeah, I can't wait. Sure, I'd be able to pay my bills, but I would be miserable. I would be absolutely, because that'd be at everybody's beck and call for when their site either doesn't work, or they can't update it, or they need me to update it, and it's like, even if you set limits, like, you could set those hard limits, but at a certain point, it just becomes too much, and it's like, that's what understanding, like, okay, well, I don't have like a rent, right? Like, I don't have a rent for my business. I don't have employees. The overhead isn't there to need to have that, like, hey, if I have 15 clients and they're all paying me $100 a month, that's $1,500. I just ate up a chunk of all that overhead that I was paying, that I need to pay every month.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense. But until you scale to that point, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother doing that, because it's just not worth it.
And that's why it's really important to know where you're heading, because you
Yep.
could have very easily gone, you know what, that's a great idea to get money, but not really taking in all of the other decisions that need to be considered in what it is that you're doing. And sure, money definitely has to be part of that decision because you've got to pay your bills. But there's so many other things that you need to consider, you know, family and the effects on that, and how you want to be living your life, and the legacy that you want to be leaving, and all of these things. They're all part of the decision.
Most definitely. And that's why you have to understand your vision, and only you will understand that vision. I feel like Smokey the Bear, like how only you can, you know, prevent forest fires or burn, you know, life fires, basically setting your life on fire. So, Sam, I would love for you to share some last thoughts before we share how people can connect with you online.
Oh, what sort of thoughts do you want me to share? You've put me on the spot.
Well, I guess any thoughts to anybody who's trying to do not necessarily their own event, but like something that's like as big and dreaming as big as like,
Yeah.
let's go do something in a totally different country that I've never done before.
Yeah. So something that's a massive dream. Dream it, see it, feel it, understand what needs to be done to get there, and embrace all of that. So before my event, I had a meditation that I did every day, and I visualized myself there surrounded by people every day. I've got a vision board with the picture of the room with people sitting at all the tables, and I looked at it every day. I absolutely 100% embraced that dream because it was such a challenge and I was so fearful about it. So I really embraced, you know, owning that, seeing it. I used to think about what it would sound like in that room, and then using that to go, okay, well, that's how I feel. Logically, what has to happen every day? And you know, all of that needs to happen. So whatever your dream is, see it, feel it, hear it, and use those feelings to map out logically what needs to happen. Because when it's a big dream, there's going to be a big fear. There's going to be a big barrier that you won't want to cross because you've never been there. So you need to use your resourcefulness to make sure that you can get through that barrier.
I love it. I can't believe that you I mean, like that was like for months you meditated on it every day.
Every morning, yeah, because I had
Wow.
so much fear around it. So it was every single day.
You know, that reminds me of what it's going to be really depressing. Um that reminds me of when my great grandmother was getting ready to pass, and she was living in my grandparents' house. And I was young. I was probably about like maybe 8 years old, 7 years old, something like that, 9 years old. And I used to go in the room, like, even though she was like kind of unconscious in the room, like you couldn't like talk to her or anything. She, you know, I'd go in there quite a bit, and I remember overhearing like my grandmother talking to, I guess, my aunt or somebody, and they were like, "Oh, you know, he goes in there a lot," and I probably because it makes him feel. He seems like he feels better about it every time he goes in. Like it's not as sad because you keep revisiting it, right? But in this case, it's like less fear because you keep revisiting it. It's like
Yeah.
you know, you keep experiencing it. Sure, it's not physical, like in the sense that you're like, okay, let's host 4 events in America before I go do the real, like 4 dress rehearsals before we go do it. But like that's why you do those dress rehearsals, and if the most you can do is that meditation and vision of envisioning of it, then that's what you got to do. Like, and
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Because you're
Facing
right.
it over and over.
It's that fear when you're pushing back from it. It almost makes it more real because you're really focusing on that rather than focusing on what's on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, and the reward. I mean, and sometimes, you know, I feel like there's been plenty of times where I've focused more on the reward, whatever the reward may be, whether it's money or it's friendships or it's networking, like connections, it's whatever it is, right? A trip, you know, a cruise, if you will.
Yeah, it's an idea.
That you know, sometimes that it, you know, you become blind to it, and you don't address the fear that's there, and you become like ill prepared, almost kind of like a cockiness to it of like, oh, like that's gonna be fine, I'm just gonna handle it and it's gonna be great, but you're not actually doing like what you were saying, envisioning it, even if you aren't sitting down to like physically meditate about it. Just like in my mind, like I'm constantly like I do what you were saying, but I don't do it like first thing up when I get up in the morning.
Well, it's got to work for you, right? You know, that's not going to work for other people. So it's just using those principles and making sure they work for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. So like when I was building out my talk for your conference, I envisioned like chunks of it, that what I would say during it, and I just kept playing it over in my mind over and over and over again, and changing it and refining it over and over and over again. So like I don't have to like write everything down to know what I'm gonna say, because I didn't really know what I was gonna say. That's why I built the deck, to remind me me what to say.
Yeah.
And I talked about things that I didn't even think I was going to talk about during that talk, because I had the time to do it. So
it was a great talk too. It was very moving and powerful with the message.
Well, thank you. I am very fortunate and blessed to be able to have a platform in the first place, to be able to create change and be able to create movement, and to be able to inspire people, whether it's to go do something like get up and go running, or starting their own business if that's what they want to do, or go get a new job, or do something, whatever it is that they want to do. That's that to me is so special. Because we don't always have people to tell us like, hey, you can do this. I mean, I can't tell you to be like 6'8" and go play in the NBA, because that's not something for everybody. Well, but you can
clearly not going to work for me, right?
Oh my God. I was so surprised that you were that short, and I didn't even realize it until you pointed it out. And then you're like, oh yeah, and I have shoes on.
Yeah, and it happened to me just, I was running a workshop in Sydney on Monday, and it was so funny because we got into the lift to go from, the office I was in down to the ground floor, and there was all these other office people around, in their suits, and it was all very quiet. And one of the girls just goes, my God, seriously, did not imagine you to be that short.
You didn't do gymnastics at all, did you?
No.
Or did you just dance?
Just dance.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't short because, like, short people generally do gymnastics.
Perfect height for gymnastics, right?
Yeah. All right. So, Samantha, I would love for you to plug your websites and how people can connect with you and find out more about the Amplified brand, and find out all about future events that you're going to host here, either in Australia or here in the States.
Well, they'll be in both, in Australia and the States. So you can find that at unlimitedinfluencelive.com. My main website is the accelerantgroup.com. And if you want to reach out and chat with me on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/Sam Riley. But yeah, reach out and say hi. I love to chat.
and you absolutely should take her up on that. She is a wonderful human being, and just so fortunate to be able to call her a friend, because like just the energy that she has, and not even just because like she has a podcast, right? Well, she has a podcast now, but when we first met she didn't have a podcast, but just that want to help people is so true and so real. So go, please.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm so blessed to have you as a friend.
Likewise, Sam. Well, thank you again for being on the show, and we'll definitely have you on again in like a year or so, and maybe we'll be recording not from the other sides, corners of the world, which is so, it still boggles my mind that like all these years, right? Like years, that I can talk to people that are literally on the other side of the earth, and in many cases have way better internet than the people I talk to in my own backyard. Being in the States, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's great. So yeah, embrace the technology.
Yes, don't be afraid. All right, thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co.